Hi everyone, Flavia here and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm excited to show you how to create a super simple note card featuring some fantastic products by heroarts. It's been a while since I've made one of these, but it is such a fun and easy project. In fact, I made a couple off screen because I loved the design so much and I wanted to share the process with you while I make a third one. If you enjoy one layer note cards, this design is perfect for that. However, since I can't help it, mine is a little bit thicker because I like adding panels inside the note card to make it feel heavier. But this is definitely a great one layer note card design. So with today's card design, we have a fun surprise window at the front. When it is closed, it looks like everything is just one panel, but when you open it, you can actually see that part of what you can see at the front of the note card is actually glued inside the note card. So I began by making one with pink flowers, and then because I enjoyed the design so much, I ended up making a second one with yellow flowers and a different sentiment, but the design is exactly the same. To make these note cards, I'm using the heroarts Hello Friend stamp set, which is this one over here, with really great sentiments, perfect for many different occasions. And I love this large and bold hello. And we also have a large friend stamp sentiment, and we can pair these two large words with any one of these smaller sentiments, which is just great. And over here on my right, we have a layering stencil with 4 different layers that we can use to create a really colorful background, which is what I used to make these two note cards and what I will be using to make the third one. So I have a red one, a yellow one, and now I think I want to make a rainbow one. So let's see how that's gonna turn out. By the way, if you don't have the exact same heroarts stamp and stencil set that I'm using today, no worries at all. You can use any of the supplies that you might already have to create a card design like this one. So I am going to begin by stenciling my panel. I'm gonna be stenciling the floral image over a piece of white cardstock. And since I don't have any sticky mat at the moment, I'm just gonna go ahead and tape this white panel to my glass mat, and then I will go ahead and tape the stencil in place as well. So I am aligning the edge of the stencil with the edge of the cardstock just to make it easier for me to place all of the different stencil layers in place in the exact same spot as the first one. However, notice here that each stencil layer has these tiny squares cutouts on each edge of the stencil, and that is also a great way of lining up all of the different layers of stencil. All you have to do is actually create a mark using a pen, or you can also do that with an ink blending brush. So by creating these squares on your panel, you will be able to later line up the next stencil layer with the previous one, which is such a great trick. So these are the colors that I think I'm going to be using to stencil my front panel. And I am going to begin with the color Lemonade. And because I want to create different colors of flowers, I'm going to use a piece of post-it to mask the sections, to protect the sections that I don't want to stencil right now. So I'm going to begin by making the flowers on the top yellow. Once that is done, I will wipe off the stencil before moving the post-it page. So now that I have the two post-its in place, I'm gonna go ahead and add the color Grapefruit. By the way, these are full sticky post-it pages, which means that the whole back is very sticky, so it's great for this technique because it really stays in place and I can always lift it and move it around to reuse it. Once I am done applying the second color, I am going to wipe it off again. Next, I am going to use pink. This is the color Sweets. By the way, by using a very small ink blending brush such as this one, it really helps me adding ink only to the sections that I want to, and it kind of helps me keeping from going over the sections that I don't need to. So now I'm gonna wipe it off so I do not contaminate my blending brushes. So I still have 2 more colors left, and I think I'm gonna, let's see, I am going to, okay, just gonna do this. I think I need to add another one just to be safe. Better safe than sorry. Want to protect these smaller ones up here. Next, I'm gonna go in with purple. This is the color Orchid. And again, I'm going to wipe off the excess that is sitting on top of the stencil and reposition my post-it pages. So again, I'm going to reuse the post-it pages to protect the sections that I already ink blended and add the last color, which is Surf. Now I can wipe this off again, remove the pages, the post-it pages, and I can also go ahead and remove this first stencil layer. Moving on, here we have layer number 2, and I'm going to line it up with the squares that I created on the top corners of this cardstock. So now with this second layer, we're going to be able to stencil bigger flowers, and I think I'm going to go in with the same color of ink. However, this time, I think I'm going to try to use a very light hand. I'm not really good at that, but I'm going to try. So these bigger flowers have a slightly lighter shade of ink. Actually, I'm not even going to grab more ink. I'm just going to use whatever ink I have left on the blending brushes. I think that's gonna do the trick. And if it doesn't work out, we can always go back. Okay, everyone, so I think I'm done stenciling the flowers. So this is the result after stenciling layer number 2. Now I can move on to layer number 3 to add some green leaves to this panel. Again, I'm gonna tape it in place. And for the leaves, I'm gonna go in with a lighter color of green. This is Celery by Simon Says Stamp. So once that is done, I will again wipe off the stencil and move on to the last layer, which is this one. Again, I'm gonna align the cutout squares on the top corners of the stencil with the squares that I marked on my cardstock. Once that's in place, I will again tape the stencil to my work surface. This way I don't need to worry about holding the cardstock down in place as I am stenciling. So it is just one less thing to worry about. Now, with this stencil, we are going to add some interest to the leaves and to the center of the flowers. So I'm gonna go in with a brown color of ink pad. This is Mocha. And just to be safe, before I begin ink blending, I like to tap off the excess of ink on the corner of the stencil because I can always go back and add more ink if I need to. But if I apply too much ink, then that's done. There is no going back and fixing it. Okay, everyone, so now I can remove this last stencil layer to reveal the amazing result. So to cut out this panel, I'm using a rectangular die plate. So this was included in the heroarts Nesting Rectangle Infinity die set. And this is the second largest plate included in this set, which means that my note card is gonna be slightly smaller than an A2 size note card. So I'm gonna go ahead and run this through my die cutting machine. And here is the result. So now I'm gonna go ahead and adhere this to a top folding A2 size note card. And to make it easier for me to line up these two pieces together, I'm gonna first position my top folding note card on the corner of my scoring board. Then I am going to apply liquid glue in the back of my stenciled panel and also position this panel on the top right corner of my scoring board. So like I said before, this panel is slightly smaller than an A2 size note card. So once this is dry, I will go ahead and trim off the excess of the white cardstock that is showing. Okay, everyone, so here is the note card after trimming off the excess. I am going to create a note card with a landscape orientation, but it really is up to you. So the next step is to cut a window from the front of this note card. There are many ways of doing this. I know that people sometimes prefer cutting the window from the front of the card base first, then from the stenciled panel second, and then gluing the two pieces together. However, I prefer gluing them together and only then die cutting both pieces at once. This way I don't need to worry about making sure that both pieces are going to line up in the end. The only thing is that you might need to run it 2 times or 3 times to cut through both layers of cardstock at once. To cut out a window from the front of my note card, I am going to use a small rectangular die included in the heroarts nesting rectangle infinity die set. So I chose one that actually fits the sentiment that I am planning on using. So the size of the plate that we're gonna use to cut out your window really is up to you, and you can actually use any die shape to cut out your window to make sure it doesn't shift, because that would be just too sad. After doing all of that stenciling, I am going to use a piece of low-tech tape to hold this die plate in place as I run it through my die cutting machine. So to do the die cutting technique, I'm using the Empress die cutting machine, and because I want to avoid the marks on this shim from being transferred to my white note card, I am actually going to add a piece of very lightweight paper just to protect my note card as I do this technique. So I'm gonna add this clear plate on top and run it through my die cutting machine twice just to make sure I really cut through both layers at once. Okay, so here is the result. So the next step is optional, but I really like doing so, which is adding a slightly smaller panel inside my note card. So this is the space where I can write a personal message later. And I like adding this panel because I'm just used to it. That's something I do all the time for all of my note cards. And I like doing so because I prefer when my note cards feel a little bit heavier, so the recipient can keep it on display if they want to. Next, we are going to actually, because I added another layer of cardstock inside my note card, I think I want to remove the second layer of cardstock glued to the back of this stenciled piece. So by removing the extra layer of cardstock, it is just gonna look even when I glue it down in place. Before I glue this down in place, I'm gonna go ahead and stamp the sentiment. To stamp the sentiment, I'm gonna use my Misty stamping tool. Actually, I need to make sure that this is not upside down. Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna place this on the corner of my Misty stamping tool just to be safe, because I really cannot mess this up. And I think I wanna make another friendship note card. So I'm gonna begin by stamping the large word friend. So once I have my stamp in place, I will close the door to pick it up and maybe add a second magnet to keep it from shifting. Next, I will add some ink to the clear stamp and close the door to stamp the sentiment. Before I remove the stamp from my acrylic door, I like to clean it. This way I won't make my fingers dirty and therefore end up staining my note card. So I'm gonna put this one away. And since we have really great sentiments over here, I wanna use a few more. So I'm gonna stamp Hey There above the stamped sentiment friend. So this one is gonna go over there. I'm gonna close the door to pick it up. I'm gonna add another magnet here. Please don't move. I'm gonna add a little bit of ink. Close the door to stamp the sentiment. And then one more time. That's it. So for now we have a Hey There friend, and then I want to add a third message at the bottom. Actually, I need to clean this and put it away. For the other one I used You Are Beautiful Inside and Out, and I think I want to use, maybe I should make a birthday note card. I think I'm gonna stamp Happy Birthday. I might even stamp another one. I love all of these messages. Yeah, I might be able to fit a fourth one after this. So, I'm gonna begin with, this is moving. Okay, so I'm gonna add some ink, close the door to stamp Happy Birthday, and then, because I just can't get enough of this stamp set, I will add a fourth one. So right now we have Hey There Friend, Happy Birthday, and I'm gonna add You Are One of a Kind. Should I do that? You Are Loved. Let's see. Yes, I'll go with one of a kind just because it is longer. Trying to do my best to make this straight, but we'll see. I'm gonna close the dot to pick it up, reposition the magnets. I really need this to not move at all. I think it looks good, so I'm gonna add some ink. Close the dot to stamp the last message. Okay, so here is the panel, the small panel that we're gonna glue inside the note card. Next step is to make sure we don't have any ink on our fingers. Because this is a pigment ink, I should really let this dry before moving on to the next step, but I can't wait, so just gonna risk it. So to adhere this square back in the negative space, we need to close the note card and line it up with the stenciled patterns. So we could definitely leave the note card as it is, however, I think it's missing some sparkle. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a frame for this window. To do so, I'm gonna combine the die plate that I used to cut out the window with the next bigger size, and we need to align these two plates as best as we can and then tape it down in place so it doesn't shift at all when die cutting it. And I'm gonna cut out a frame from definitely from a glitter cardstock. I was thinking about cutting it from silver. Should I do that? I was gonna cut it from silver glitter cardstock, but I changed my mind. I'm gonna cut it from pink glitter cardstock. So here is the frame. This is all that we need, and we can definitely save this to die cut smaller pieces. To adhere this frame to my note card, I'm gonna use the Barely Art glue. And not only this is a great glue that I trust will make my note cards last a very long time, but it also comes in a very fine needle tip, which makes it really easy to apply glue to very thin and intricate die cut pieces, such as this frame. So the only thing with this card design is that the space to write a personal message is limited. It doesn't bother me at all because I have a really nice stamped message that I think says it all. However, if you need more space to write a personal message, what you can do is, instead of gluing a panel inside the note card, you can actually add a second smaller size note card, fold it, and then you would glue the panel over here, and then when you open it, the stamped sentiment will be over here, and then you would have all of this space to write a personal message. But again, I like the note card as it is. I don't think I need more room than what I have. And here is the matching envelope. I'm pairing this note card with a Kraft color envelope that I got from Amazon. I did stamp the sentiment "You are loved." And then, to make it match the note card, I added a cardstock strip to the flap of this envelope. So this completes this video, and I hope you had as much fun following along as I did making it with you. If you want to see close-up photos of the final note cards or need a handy visual supply list, make sure to head over my blog. I also got everything linked in the description box below. Thanks for joining me today, and happy crafting!